All right, we're here at Levi Stadium, trying a live. Don't know if the internet supports it, but so far the internet looks pretty good. So we'll try. Just got done with Kyle Shanahan's press conference. Practice is coming up in about 30 minutes. Tuesday open practice today, Wednesday open practice, Thursday nothing, and then Friday a game against the Chargers, which it sounds like we're going to see quite a few starters in that game. Jake Brendel talked to the media today and expects to play a significant amount. He said maybe 15, 20 plays, something like that. So there's a lot to still be decided this week, and he thought it'd be valuable because they're going to go up against a defense similar to the one they're going to see week 1 against Pittsburgh. But, the first thing I wanted to say was I knew it. If you've been watching this or listening to the podcast for a little while here on YouTube, where you can like this video, brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka. You could, you know how much Tito's gets ordered back here at the bar? So much Tito's. Field is right there. Tito's Handmade Vodka, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, crafted to be savored responsibly. I'm a little out of my element here, so I'm a little thrown off. This is cool. But podcast down in the description below as well. This is the BNY Melon. I don't know if that's the gold. Oh, yeah, I guess it's something like that. But the thing I expected is what Kyle Shanahan basically said today. He was asked when he expects to name a backup quarterback. And what I've been saying the whole time is he will not name one until he absolutely has to. And the time that he absolutely has to name a quarterback to back up Brock Purdy is 90 minutes before the first preseason game or the first regular season game, which is the Steeler game, right? When he has to name his active roster. John and I were talking about this yesterday, whether or not he has to actually name the emergency quarterback. Is that a 47th guy? Is that guy just part of the other inactives? How exactly does the logistical part of that work? The real answer is it doesn't really matter to us. We know that you're going to have a backup and then you're going to have an emergency, and that emergency can only play if the other two guys are hurt. And if he plays, the other two guys can't come back. So what that exactly means for his active roster, Kyle said he got an email last night and hasn't fully read it yet. So he's got to figure that out. But what it means for our purposes is the guy that gets named the backup 90 minutes before the game is the number 2 quarterback that day. And Kyle's not going to make an announcement until we're 90 minutes before the game. Well, he's not going to make the announcement. He'll make the announcement with that active roster. I thought what was interesting, too, was he was asked about whether or not it could change. Matt Barrows from The Athletic asked him, could it change week to week, depending. He kind of dug in on it properly, who the scout team quarterback would be, right, depending on the opponent. But Kyle Shanahan was very quick and adamant that, yes, it could change week to week who the backup quarterback is. The other factor, and I was talking to Kawakami about this earlier, I haven't dug into the story yet, but the other factor is Cincinnati needs a backup quarterback, needs another quarterback. And they have such a plug-and-play guy here. Hold on, I'm getting a text from let me see if I can get somebody to walk over here and hold on. I'm giving someone directions by the field entrance. But Cincinnati is going to need a backup quarterback, and the Niners are perfectly positioned to give the Bengals a backup quarterback, Brandon Allen, who's their guy. Like, it's really, I can't quite, maybe somebody who's a Bengals fan could explain to me why they got rid of Brandon Allen for, I think, Jake Browning. So, for all this consternation about whether or not Brandon Allen could play over Trey Lance, would they keep Brandon Allen over Trey Lance? As you guys know, I have not been in favor of, been very adamant not to do that. But for all that consternation, that problem could solve itself, which, is part of what happens a lot of times. We've seen it with the Niners often, and we see it across sports all the time. We have 2 months to play out all the different scenarios for a problem, and then the solution just presents itself. And the solution might just present itself for them in that form. So there's that. Oh, do you want to come join me? Come on over.
I not sure what this was. But sure.
Yeah, well, since you got time, I'm live,
Make it
and
happen.
I created this whole little setup.
They're cozy.
Do you want us to come talk quarterbacks with me?
Sure.
TK? Sure. We're streaming right now. Quality's good.
I'm
Ladies and
down.
gentlemen.
Let's go.
Tim
I'm all
Kawakami.
good.
Why don't you slide over a little here, Tim? Let's get cozy. Host of the TK Show.
Host TK Show.
Barry
Warriors
editor
plus minus.
of the,
no, I'm not editor anymore. Yeah,
okay. The Athletic, Warriors plus minus.
I'll go with that.
All right. You just had that big conversation with Shanahan. We're actually, you came in at the perfect time because
Okay.
we were just talking quarterbacks. And I was saying how so often we've got these problems that we try to solve for 2 months out, and then sometimes they solve themselves.
Many times.
Which
Or
goes
other-
to a
or other
point.
Problems come up.
Or other problems come up. But this goes to a point you were making earlier today, which I'll let you, if you'd like to. I don't want to scoop you. But the Bengals situation.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been trying to figure out if Brandon Allen could actually take Trey Lance's job, and there might be another job for Brandon Allen.
Yeah, I don't know exactly why the Bengals didn't re-sign him in the first place. I don't know why he signed with the 49ers. Kind of late, right? This is after Darnold signed. So he signs as the 49ers' fourth quarterback. We know there was questions about Purdy, his health at least. But he signs with the 49ers. If he's healthy, he's the fourth quarterback. Kyle praises him. He's looks solid. Obviously, the reps going way down now because they only go to 3 quarterbacks. But I don't quite get how that whole thing worked because now I would believe that Jake Browning isn't for sure going to be the guy behind Joe Burrow, who has injury issues, has had them in the past. Maybe you can flip him to the Bengals. I don't know. I mean, I think that's a conversation that's one of the reasons I asked Kyle about, are you committed to keeping 3? Or, I mean, it's not really about Brandon Allen, but it's sort of like, where's his head is at, just on the order, on the content, on how many can you keep? Or can you get Allen on the practice? I don't think they can keep him on the practice squad. I would bet you he gets signed.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of know that. So that kind of plays into what they might think about what they do with the third quarterback. It's just this interesting layered thing by having Darnold and Allen signed. Like both of them signed. 2 guys who can be backups. And like they are backup quarterbacks anyway. I think you would agree. Like they are NFL backup quarterbacks. I think Trey is, at the top of the list of a talented backup quarterbacks. So they got 3 possible QB2s. Even if you don't think Allen for sure, he can be the QB2 for the Bengals, and it has been. It's just this weird layered thing of all these quarterbacks they've got now, and they can be happy about having all these guys because we saw what happened in the NFC Championship game. We saw what always happened to their quarterbacks.
Josh Johnson looked good last night, by the way.
He looked like he go right in there.
I just box score shouted, but minus box score.
I think they threw one touchdown pass to a guy with the cornerback took it right out of his hands. But like they got some interesting calls, and like if they cut somebody, if it's Allen, he's going to get picked up. And I think they know that. They probably can't sneak him on the practice squad. Then they'll probably get another practice squad. Or maybe they can. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreading what the Bengals situation could be. But it just feels to me like the Bengals might want him back. So maybe you talk about trade. You won't be getting up much. Obviously, you're not getting much. But something. Maybe you can get something for Brandon Allen.
Did you think it was interesting how quickly Kyle Shanahan answered today when asked, could you see your backup quarterbacks changing week to week? How quickly he answered yes to that question?
Yeah.
What did you make of that?
I thought that was part of the scout team question more. Like, so whether the scout team quarterback has to be the third quarterback or not, I think it's all kind of in play. I think it is in play. I think, I know you guys are certain that Darnold's QB2. I think it's likely that he's QB2. I don't think it's. I don't think that's.
You think the competition's still going?
Yeah, I could. Why not? Like, why couldn't it just go into the season? I think it was up to Trey to do that.
Yeah.
Because if he was not good, then he was not going to be QB2. But they can see that. Again, it's not going to be give him a Trey package. It's not going to be like, hey, it's exciting if you think about Trey doing this running, red zone. That's not it at all. At all. They are not doing that. I think I made that point to you very early on.
Yes,
there is no Trey package. He's going to have to be the backup quarterback or the third-string quarterback, strictly on Kyle Shanahan's terms, strictly on the Brock Purdy terms, the Jimmy Garoppolo terms. But I can see them going, I can see him liking a little competition. Maybe they think Trey's been better because of the competition. Maybe it's good to push Sam Darnold a little bit. Might be a little awkward, maybe you don't do it the whole time. You don't really want to kind of unsteady, but I can see them going, okay, this week, Sam Darnold's back at quarterback. Next week, maybe it's a little better if we see Trey. I can see them thinking that way. I don't think it literally will be like, I think Darnold's going to be the backup. I agree with you guys. But I don't think this was set up for Sam Darnold to be the backup no matter what. It's semantics.
Yep.
Did they lean his way? Probably.
Yes.
Does he sign with the 49ers without knowing that they kind of leaning this way. But I think they gave it. My big point with 49ers and quarterback is option. Like they give themselves options.
Yeah.
They do not shut down options. Like this guy until this guy's better. This guy until this guy's better. Then this guy takes a step back. Then it's another guy. They've done this when we can remember Kirk Cousins. Like I keep saying that the quarterback coming into this was Kirk Cousins. Slam dunk. They did not evaluate Patrick Mahomes until very late in the process because they were sure they're going to get Kirk Cousins. It just wasn't. This is and then that changed because they got Garoppolo. Like it just changes. Right. It changes. And I think Trey has done enough, up and down a little bit. We know that. It's not the Sam Darnold is the kind of security blanket. That's why he's likely the guy that if Brock Purdy gets hurt in a game, it's probably going to be Sam Darnold. But I think Trey's doing enough, has done enough. They like him enough. They like what he does for the quarterback room enough that there could be some play there.
Yeah.
A little play.
Well, I mean, I think what I keep conveying to people is I think at minimum Trey's done enough to prove that he deserves more time to develop.
Yeah.
But I think the argument I end up in with a lot of people a lot of the time is Darnold 55 interceptions and 35 fumbles, and that's an outrageous number, and it is an outrageous number. But Kyle Shanahan doesn't care what Adam Gase's quarterback did or what Matt Rule's quarterback did. Like, and so there's some debate about some people think Trey's been better in this preseason. Some people think, I think more people, I think it's been Sam from being at all the training camp practices, just about being at OTAs where I thought Trey was a little ahead. And I think Sam got a better handle on the playbook and he's moved ahead. I think he's been more consistent in the games. Trey has absolutely proven he can make splash plays, but he had 3 or 4 plays in the last preseason game. There were also kind of plays that helped move an offense backwards. Sam didn't do that. And I think that is what has kept him ahead.
No question. I agree with you. I mean, and just to think of it, okay, down 14-13 in Pittsburgh in the fourth quarter, who does Kyle say, okay, Brock just went down.
Right.
Who do I? It's
and Kyle's Kyle's basing it on the last 3 months.
Yes. Yeah. And also just I know this guy has an idea of what I want out of him. It's not 100% sure that Trey can do that. But again, it's back a quarterback. It's a bit of a coin flip on those two. I think so. I think initially he thought Brandon Allen was in that mix. I think the very least, Trey Lance has outplayed Brandon Allen. Like I just think it's clear. Yeah, it's just like that might have been a question.
Played.
Yeah, well, even up to that point, he was getting extra reps early on. Remember, because they were splitting twos and he was getting.
There was
threes.
A day where they split. Yeah.
So I think if Kyle had an idea that might be happening, he certainly talked up Brandon Allen.
Yeah,
like that was.
We don't get rid of players we like.
When he started saying they could keep 4 quarterbacks, there was just no. I mean, even John Lynch even said like we cannot keep 4 quarterbacks. But I think that was just Kyle keeping Brandon Allen as an option on the 53. I don't think that's a live option unless they trade Trey, and I don't think they're going to trade Trey. I've gone from that. Like, you don't trade a guy who could be pretty good, like,
especially if the value isn't going to be overwhelming coming back.
Like, what is he worth to you if Brock gets hurt again, or if Brock isn't as good? Sam Darnold's a free agent at the end of the year. Like, there could be a reason to keep Trey, not 100% reason, maybe not even a 75% reason, but there's a reason. And they are keeping their options open and all this stuff.
I would say he's been good enough that you have to give me a reason not to keep him. And what that means is offer me a second or third round, right? Which nobody's doing. Comment here, TK. The internet, when you're live, you can comments just come back at you.
Are they good comments or are they bad comments?
Well, I prefer the bad ones, as I know you do. Haberman is Darnold's hype man, one of the only people on earth that's intrigued by that bump. So do you think, what is the percentage of people around here you think that are intrigued by Sam Darnold?
I think there are a fair number. I don't think it's like 80% of the thing. And by the way, there's one person who counts 99.999%, right? That's it. So it's people around the edges. It's the locker room. It's whatever. I mean, we haven't really been in the locker room. We get them at the podium. You get them one by one. Maybe we're in the locker room after the last game. So it's hard to get a real feel for that. But I think, there's some people. I think Shanahan's a little intrigued by him. Not like this. It's not Kirk Cousins here. We're not talking Kirk Cousins. I think we're just talking like I think I could play this guy. Like I think, but Kyle probably thinks that about a bunch of guys.
Yeah, he does.
And I don't know that. I mean, listen, I agree. I think he liked him coming out of college. If he was going to draft a quarterback that year, which he did not, it probably would have been Darnold. It was not going to be Josh Rosen, even though Rosen got a chance with this team last year.
Yes, he did.
But I don't think he's a classic Shanahan guy. I think he's a guy Shanahan's like, yeah, I mean, kind of lump of clay kind of thing,
So here's my comp. I was thinking about this today. I think, and I'm of the group of people that has been surprised by how talented I think Darnold is versus what I thought he was coming in. And when I say how talented, I'm not talking
decisions, right?
I'm talking about his arm and the consistency with which he has used his arm effectively in the amount of time we've watched him, right? I wonder if you ask Kyle for a comp, and you did a great interview with Kyle, and you just did a great interview with Greg, that Papa. So
the two most important people in 49ers headquarters,
That's right.
Those two guys.
I wonder if his comp would be Stafford-ish.
Yeah. I mean, Stafford's, I think, arm is.
Stafford was on a bad team
level.
and was still a star. Yeah. So it's not the same. I'm not saying the same thing, but
it wouldn't be. That's not bad. I just, because Stafford, I know, that's one person I know in this team headquarters, and a lot of that arm talent is unique. It's not quite Justin Herbert, but there aren't that many others that have been close to that kind of arm talent. I don't know that Kyle would, anybody would put Darnold in that degree. Would he put him above most of the people who've been here? Yeah. But hey, Kyle doesn't need that arm talent. I mean, he likes it. That's what he says. Of course, you want the guy he's throws like whatever and runs like what Michael Vick. That's just him saying
run like Mays, hit like Mays.
Ideally.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one or the other, it's the guy who can throw accurately from the pocket and make the right decisions. It's, I was saying, and we're talking in the auditorium while we're waiting, I don't think Kirk Cousins is his ideal quarterback, ideal. And it wouldn't be no, but he's the guy that kind of syncs with what Kyle wants in the most, 100% way of, he thinks like I want a quarterback to think, and he has enough arm talent to take advantage of that. I think Kyle's ultimate quarterback might be Drew Brees. That's that guy.
Really? He would just give away arm strength?
Well, I mean, if the guy had the arm strength and could read a defense like Brees, he'd go for that. But who is that? Maybe Mahomes. I mean, it's Mahomes for everybody, but Mahomes does a little loose, right?
Mahomes doesn't listen as much.
Yeah, but again, we're going through incredibly talented quarterbacks. I'm just saying, when Kyle is just drawing up the things, I absolutely need a quarterback. It's Kirk Cousins. Just the ticks doesn't mean he thinks he's the best quarterback. Just the things that I want in my quarterback. And if you just measure quarterbacks against Kirk Cousins, it's a pretty good way to judge Kyle Shanahan quarterbacks, because this is how he's going to want them to do. Right. Jimmy was always a little bit not that. I always thought that interplay was fun, is interesting, and it helped Jimmy in the locker room. Because Kirk Cousins walks in, he's going to be teacher's pet, right?
Yeah,
100% teacher's pet. It's going to be hard for him.
It's going
to be hard for him to lead a team as a teacher's pet. Jimmy was always kind of like, that's kind of, Kyle's, black sheep son.
Right, but he could act. He could do what he wanted.
He could do it because he had the talent. He had something about him, and it won over the locker room. And Kyle lived with it. And sometimes Kyle loved it, and sometimes Kyle really didn't like it. I think Purdy's, certainly more towards Kyle's going to like that, but also Purdy's got a little bit of that, right? He got a little gunslinger in him. We'll see if it causes turnovers or not. It certainly did not when he was playing last season. But I think I've always thought that you don't necessarily want the perfect guy, because the locker room's going to go, that's just your guy, right? That's just your boy. He can never do wrong. Can you imagine Kyle ever yelling at Kirk Cousins? I can't.
Even Belichick yelled at Brady. All that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I think that is a good tension. Isn't terrible at that position, especially when it's an offensive-minded coach with a quarterback. Yep. And that's what I wonder if, the Cousins thing, even if it might still be possible in the future, whatever, people get mad at me, but it is still out there.
He's got to work cheap.
But I'll say, if you think Kyle's love of Kirk Cousins has diminished over the years, I can tell you personally, it has
his
not.
Appreciation has grown.
He's very intrigued by the quarterback documentary. I don't think he's watched it, but he's intrigued by how's Kirk coming off. Again, I don't think he thinks of him as his quarterback. This is a guy.
He takes pride in him.
That's a guy he's connected to.
Yeah.
And you keep track of the guys you're connected to. I don't want anybody to aggregate this saying that's who he wants in the future. I'm just saying, if you think of Kirk Cousins and you try to measure other 49ers quarterback against that, particular maybe even Cousins 3 years ago, maybe not right now, it's a pretty good way to judge 49ers quarterbacks under Kyle Shanahan.
But if you do aggregate it, it's from the Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF podcast. What time is practice? 1:15? We got
1:05, I think.
Oh, 1:05? We got
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you your favorite interview that you've ever done, because you always end people with that. But
okay, I'll do. Jim Harbaugh was the first one. I'll always go to that one. It's what made the podcast. when I was telling the executives of my paper, who are not the brightest in the world, still there, by the way, that I was going to do a podcast. They said, you know what, it's all a great idea and all, but we don't think you're going to get good guests. I said, you know what, I think I am. And I didn't tell him who it was going to be. And Harbaugh got it. I had never done the podcast before. He got it. And it was after he'd been let go by the 49ers. It was early in his career at Michigan, and he did it, and he wouldn't hang up. In fact, we hung up on him accidentally, and he called back, and then Sarah was on. I just, you know how it's your first.
Yeah,
it's and we're doing the podcast. In my head, I go, I can't do this. It's going to work, and we're going to keep going. Like those three things just hit you, and I think you can imagine what that feeling's like. Like, let's starting something new. I think I can do it. I'm pitching that I'm going to do it. That one did it. Like from then on, there was never a question that this was going to live, and it was going to be good. People would want to come on. Do I want other? I wish I could have other people on. I get most of the people I want on, frankly, but that one with that guy at that time was just
Well, Tim,
it made the TK show the TK show, and I will always remember that part.
Thanks for popping over, Tim.
Yeah,
I
thought guys want to talk about career advice or something, but no, let's do it.
We can talk. I'll take your career advice too.
I might ask you for some.
All right. Well, we'll go talk. Oh, we're heading out to the field now.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. See you guys stopping by.
You got it.
There goes Tim Kawakami. Go check out his podcast,
TK Show,
wherever you get your pods. All right, I'm gonna run. I'm gonna head out to the practice. There goes Kawakami, and I'm going to be back a little later this afternoon with maybe some post-practice grades. We'll see. All right. Thanks for popping in. This was fun. This worked. I think give me some feedback. Let me know that the internet, everything sounded good. But thanks, y'all. Later.